Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Savitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchagura, what's the time allocation? In a Bandhu, Shruti Kirti. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna. Today is a very special day. What's special today? Prabhupada sailed for America. Before we start that, we want to congratulate Devi Shakti Mataji for having this international book house. I guess it's an international book house. Your Prabhupada's books in almost every major language. I'm sure Prabhupada will be very pleased. I hope we have enough customers to keep the shop busy. So today, this very special day, is the day that Prabhupada sailed from Calcutta to the West. Prabhupada met his spiritual master in 1922. Prabhupada's father, whose name was Gormonde, was a very pious man. Prabhupada said he was a middle-class businessman. Can you make it a little higher? Then I have to bend. Okay? Prabhupada said he was a business middle-class man. But he had great affection to serve sadhus. And Prabhupada said he did not discriminate whether someone was a genuine sadhu or a fake. So Prabhupada had a lot of exposure to sadhus, and he wasn't so impressed by these sadhus. In 1922, Prabhupada had a friend whose name was some Mr. Mukherjee. And that friend of Prabhupada said, I wanted to meet a very special sadhu. Prabhupada said, I have met so many sadhus, but I'm not impressed by any of them. But in Prabhupada's words, Prabhupada said, he virtually dragged me to see Bhakti-Siddhantaji. And in the very first meeting, Bhakti-Siddhantaji could see, here is that devotee who will be able to fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction that the holy name will be heard in every town and village of the world. Prior to Bhakti-Siddhantaji, later on, Bhakti-Siddhantaji had sent many sannyasis to the West, but they didn't succeed. But Prabhupada at that point was in the Grihastha ashram. He was intensively involved in Gandhi's freedom movement. So Prabhupada said, first we should make our country independent, and then we can think of it. But Bhakti-Siddhantaji explained what is real independence. Real independence is not political independence, but spiritual independence. Independence from the cycle of both in that. So this thought was planted in Prabhupada's heart. And then Prabhupada was moving around in different cities to establish himself. He had a family to take care. And in 1932, He met Bhaktisiddhantaji in Bombay. Bhaktisiddhantaji had come to install the deities and inaugurate the Gaudiya Math temple. And the Gaudiya Math sannyasis took Prabhupada with them to meet Bhaktisiddhantaji. Of course, Prabhupada had met him earlier too. And they said, Rabbi Chandra has done so much seva in getting this temple started that you should make him the president of the local branch. And Bhaktisiddhantaji said, no, let him continue the way he is, and at the appropriate time, he will do the needful. In 1936, 2 weeks before Bhaktisiddhantaji departed, Prabhupada had written to him a letter saying that you have so many sannyasi disciples who are rendering such valuable service to you. I am not able to do much. So what is your instruction for me? And Bhaktisiddhantaji responded by repeating the instruction he gave in 1922. So take this message to the Western world. So this was planted in Prabhupada's heart, and he continued to pursue, and eventually took Vanaprastha and then later on sannyas. After he took Vanaprastha, he was still traveling in India. He established the League of Devotees. Recently we celebrated the anniversary of the inauguration of ISKCON. And the 7 purposes that are mentioned in the memorandum were exactly the same that Prabhupada gave to the devotees in Jhansi. And Prabhupada was constantly meditating how to go to America. That was his prime goal. And at that time, India had just recovered from being a British colony, and most of the Indians, for them the first goal in life was to go to England. Prabhupada wasn't thinking of England. He said, first let's go to America. And he explored different procedures, different routes via Japan and via Europe. And it was a struggle. Prabhupada wanted to get the first canto of the Bhagavatam translated and printed before he took his trip to the West. Prabhupada didn't want to go to America empty-handed. He wanted to take some books which could be used as weapons to preach. So Prabhupada printed first canto part 1, reciting in Radha temple, typing on a broken typewriter. If you ever saw that typewriter, you would throw it away. Typing on a broken typewriter, taking a third-class compartment train from Mathura to Delhi, then going to the printer, buying the paper. Prior to this, Prabhupada had done the translation work, and plus collecting donations to print it. He didn't have the money to print. He was printing with small printers who gave him credit. And so this way Prabhupada printed first canto part 1. And after it was printed, he took the opportunity to present it to important dignitaries like the Prime Minister of India, Radha Krishna, Zakir Hussain, etc. And Prabhupada had to also go and sell it. It was virtually a one-man army. And he sold some to the educational institutions. The American embassy bought 16 sets for the Library of Congress. So Prabhupada had, with great difficulty, done first canto part 1, 2, 3. And after the third one was done, he thought that now he has all the weapons necessary to defeat any argument. Prabhupada had great faith in the Bhagavatam. he had published a pamphlet in which the Bhagavatam was glorified. It was my mission. Isn't it? My mission. And he had, Prabhupada's dream at that time was, there was 60-volume Bhagavatam set. So Prabhupada got a brochure printed. But now the question was, how to travel? Plane travel was very expensive by economic standards of those at that time. And he approached many people. They said, no, it's too expensive. I can't do it. And then many sadhus said, sadhus should not go abroad. They were traditional Hindus. Anyway, Prabhupada was determined. So Prabhupada's search for support took him to Mrs. Maharaj. Prior to this, Mrs. Maharaj was a pious lady who resided, by coincidence, very near the Hare Krishna temple in Juhu. Her house was just 2 blocks away. And when Prabhupada would go to see her, he would often pass by the Hare Krishna land, which was at that time a jungle. And Prabhupada at that time didn't have money to live, money to eat, but still he meditated that if Krishna ever gave him that land, he would build a temple for him. That was his desire and prediction. So, Srimati Maharaji had helped Prabhupada print the first canto part 3. One Prabhupada had gone to her office and the secretary said, she's too busy, she doesn't have time. And Prabhupada said, okay, I'll just sit in the staircase. But she has to eventually go home by the staircase. So Prabhupada sat in the staircase doing japa for 5 hours. And then when she was going home in the evening, her secretary's name was Mr. Choksi. So she asked Choksi, who is this sadhu sitting here? He said, he's the same sadhu you helped print the Bhagavatam, and he wants to see you. So she called Prabhupada home the next day. And Prabhupada told her, I want to go to America to take Lord Chaitanya's message. She said, you're so old. At this age, you may have a heart attack. You've never been abroad. Prabhupada had never seen snow before. But Prabhupada persisted. He said, don't worry, even if I have to die. And when she saw that Prabhupada was so determined to go, she finally gave in. And she said, okay, I can arrange a berth for you in a cargo ship. What was that cargo ship called? If that Jaladuta was still there, the owners would have become millionaires. They could have broken it and sold a small piece as souvenir. But unfortunately, they smashed it before ISKCON got established. Or maybe after. Because Jaladuta is virtually a household word in ISKCON all over the world. So she said, I'll give you a berth in a cargo ship. And she was a pious lady, so she took with her. She wanted the captain of the ship to be a pious person, and she told him to carry extra vegetables and grains for Prabhupada. Prabhupada had no money. He would walk from the Scindia colony in Bombay, where he was residing, to the Andheri railway station. Walk, not even take the bus. You know why? Because he didn't have any money. Let's see this example. We devotees in ISKCON get so spoiled, we can't move a step forward without having a car. But Prabhupada used to walk to save because he didn't have money. So Mrs. Maharaj, she arranged for Prabhupada's passage. Prabhupada reached Calcutta 2 weeks before he was going to sail. And in the meantime, Prabhupada had completed translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. He had with him 200 sets of the first canto that he was taking with him to America for distribution. So Choksi bought Prabhupada clothes worth 500 rupees. And then Prabhupada arrived in Calcutta 2 weeks before his departure. Prabhupada originally stayed in Calcutta, but now he was returning to Calcutta as a sannyasi. So he didn't want to stay with any of his relatives. And he stayed in a dharamsala. And he was preparing to go to the West. Prabhupada had met one Mr. Bhattacharya in Lucknow. Bhattacharya was a professional singer, and the governor of UP had met Prabhupada at a program in Radha Damodar temple. Prabhupada had invited him. And then later in Lucknow, there was a program in the governor's house where he was doing Kirtan, and Prabhupada gave the lecture. So when he arrived in Calcutta, he stayed in a dharamsala. He contacted this Mr. Bhattacharya, and according to Bhattacharya's version, they rented a taxi and they would go to different publishing houses, print like different newspapers, and Prabhupada wanted his departure from India to be a news item. You see. So Prabhupada personally went to the newspapers with Mr. Bhattacharya. All of them were smiling when they met Prabhupada, but none of them published anything. There was only one small Bengali journal that printed Prabhupada's departure. So Prabhupada came to Calcutta. His goal was to get his trip covered. Then he went to Mayapur, offered obeisances to his Guru Maharaj's Samadhi, and then came back to Calcutta. So Prabhupada sailed on the Jaladuta, and the ship departed at 9 a.m. in the morning. And according to Vrindavan Day's version, he took Prabhupada to the port, and when Prabhupada arrived at the ship harbor, no worker had even arrived. But Prabhupada was so anxious to go, he arrived 2 hours before departure, and all the gates, everything was closed. And finally, on August 13, 1965, at 9 a.m., the ship departed. And Prabhupada's books were sent directly to Sri Lanka. So this was Prabhupada's dream, to sail to America, which he finally did in 1965. And Pandya and his wife took care of Prabhupada. Next day was Janmashtami, and then Prabhupada's Vyas Puja. And Prabhupada took with him a Bengali version of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he read that Chaitanya Charitamrita Bengali version on the way. Probably we often hear Prabhupada had 40 rupees with him, isn't it? Yeah. But the story that we have is from Prabhupada's son, that 40 rupees Prabhupada did not take. As he was leaving Calcutta port, his son, Vrindavan Day was there. He came to see him off. Prabhupada said, this money will not have any utility once I go abroad. So you take it. So that in summary is our presentation today. So Prabhupada's dream eventually became true. And we know how Prabhupada went to the West, established Krishna consciousness, which he took every corner of the globe. So Prabhupada came. Okay.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanamanubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Savadandigam Adadanastrинандан Daivridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Divisyam Janma Janmani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, with my eyes closed shut, but my spiritual masters opened my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer up my humble obeisances at his lotus feet. So all of us are sitting here in Sri Vrindavan Dham, where Sri Krishna and Radha, even to this day, are performing their pastimes, and Krishna Balaram, this is Raman Reti, that part of Vrindavan is called Raman Reti, where Krishna Balaram were sporting with the cows and cowherd boys. And in that Raman Reti, a pure devotee saw a plot of land, just like we heard from Maharaj how he saw a plot of land in Juhu. And he said, let there be a temple and devotional service to the Lord. And this is the most beautiful temple. There's temples that are more expensive, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the most beautiful temple in all of Vrindavan. Appeared with this beautiful tamal tree in the courtyard. And we're all sitting in that very temple, in front of the most enchanting deities of Sri Sri Gaurnitai, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar. On this very auspicious day. And the reason we're sitting here is on this very day, day after Balaram's appearance, Prabhupada boarded the Jaladuta. Actually, the picture that we see in most of the time is not the real. The old Jaladuta was scrapped a long time ago. But there's Jaladuta 1, 2, and 3. Prabhupada went on number 2, but it was been gone for a long time. There's no picture of it. Or maybe there's an old picture, huh? Cindy, the company even has disappeared. And Mrs. Cindy has also disappeared. And the only reason we're sitting in this wonderful place is because Prabhupada got on that boat to go to the West, and following the order of his spiritual master to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English language. We can't begin to imagine what this day means. And we can't begin to imagine. Now we can begin to imagine. We've already passed, Prabhupada was 69, we already passed that by 2 years. And we know what, in the beginning it was fun traveling around. But when you're old, it's no fun anymore. It's a big hassle. And Prabhupada had never traveled to the West. And we're going by 777 Dreamliners. As Maharaj Sri explained, Prabhupada, he begged passage on a steamship. We can't imagine traveling on a steamship. We travel around the world. Of course, now coronavirus has spoiled all the fun for everybody. Like it's nothing. We travel and we get so upset that it's an hour late. The plane's an hour late, probably. I don't know how long it took. How long did it take? 25 days, almost a month. Huh? Now we can't even spare 25 minutes. Somebody 25 minutes late, we get upset. 25 days take out of your time to go to America. At the age of 69, we can't even begin to imagine. And nobody was even there to receive him. Here the pure devotee of the Lord was taking the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pure message. I'm amazed that somehow Krishna inspired Srimati Morarji because sadhus all the time begging for this and that and this and that, so many, how she recognized, how Krishna inspired her to understand that this is a genuine devotee who's not going there just, everybody goes to the West just to make money. Prabhupada wasn't going to make money, he was going to make devotees. He was going to give that gift. Everybody, so many people had invaded India and taken all the treasures, but they left the most greatest treasure, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam behind. Prabhupada was going like that. Somehow she recognized his genuine desire, gave him. And when we travel, when we get to the place we're going to, there's already so many devotees waiting there. Even sometimes, still even today, I've been places, they meet you at the airport with Kirta. There was no one, even the people who had given him the invitation letter so that he could come, who he was going to stay with. Even they hired some company, traveler's assistant or something like that. Some hired guy came to meet Prabhupada in Boston Harbor, or New York, where I can't remember. The boat stopped to one place and went to another place. Anyway, to take him to Butler, Pennsylvania. The parents, they always work very hard and they make themselves success, and they don't wish that their children should suffer the same troubles and struggles that they did. They give the children all facilities. Now wherever we go, it's only Prabhupada's mercy. Somebody's there to pick us up. And we have a nice place to stay and nice food to eat. Prabhupada didn't even know. He took oatmeal with him because he didn't know if he would get something to eat in America. But for all of us, his children, he's made so much wonderful facility. We're staying here throughout this coronavirus distress. We're hardly distressed. We're staying here with Gaura-Nitai, Krishna Balaram, Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar that Prabhupada established, this beautiful temple. We just heard, even Prabhupada, we always heard that Prabhupada took 40 rupees. Maharaj just said he gave that away to his son. We preach the message and people give us donations. I see this always at Prabhupada as the father. He doesn't want his children to suffer. So he's making all arrangements. Whatever we get, that is Prabhupada's money. Prabhupada is helping us. We fly around, we go wherever we go, there's someone there. Prabhupada left with nothing, not even 40 rupees that we heard about. And we were totally lost. We can't even begin to imagine where we would be. Sometimes, every morning I walk in the Samadhi, and I think, where would I be if Prabhupada had not come and saved us? I don't even want to see and dream where I would be now. I know where I was heading, 180 degrees wrong direction I was traveling. But Prabhupada, out of his unlimited kindness, he took this great trouble at the age of 16. Now we're there. We can understand what trouble it is. Now we can begin to really appreciate what trouble Prabhupada took for us. So that we can all sit here in this Krishna Balaram Mandir, relishing the classes, hearing the wonderful stories of Prabhupada's life. Now we can understand. Now we can't even begin to imagine. So on this holy day where Prabhupada left to go to America, we can just bow down at his pure lotus feet and pray that with whatever few years that we have left of our lives, We're all going one by one. Yesterday a few days before, Ramdas, Abhirandas, one of the most wonderful painters in ISKCON. Prabhupada he was very dear to Prabhupada. His paintings those were the windows to the spiritual world. He's left. One devotee I don't think I knew, but Godbrother in Australia, there was a whole thing about how he went to jail so many times in Australia because he used to arrest devotees for Sankirtan. He went to jail so many times. Even he went to jail so many times they put his picture in the paper. And he left his body, so we have little time left, so we just pray on this holy day to get the same determination that Srila Prabhupada. We can't imagine. We know where we're going, where we're going to stay, everything is all arranged. Prabhupada had no idea what was going to happen. So we can just pray that with whatever few years we have left on this planet, to let us try to push on Srila Prabhupada's movement, and we just pray somehow or other we can continue in Prabhupada's movement even after we leave this body. We'll somehow or other be with Prabhupada to continue his mission. Srila Prabhupada ki! Yeah.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachanini Vishesha Sanjavari Paschachade Sati. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Deena Bandhu Prabhu's for heartfelt talks. 1965, I was 14 years old. I'm 69. You said you're a couple years. We're all in this situation, like you said. This is when Prabhupada left India. When I was with him, sometimes Prabhupada, he would reminisce about those days before coming to America. He would call you in the room, because he liked to express. It was Mayapur, and my Paramahamsa Swami and myself were with Prabhupada at the time. He rang his bell. He said, come. He said, get Paramahamsa, come back. In his sitting room. And he said, I had a dream. And he was remembering the dream. He said, when I was on the boat, the Jaladuta, he said, in the heart attack, he said, when I had the heart attacks, he said, then I had this dream, and I was on a small rowboat. Yeah, he said, in the 10 incarnations, they were rowing. He said, they were rowing the boat. He said, and he was lying in the boat. He said, they were rowing me. He said, when I woke up, I knew everything would be okay. He tells one story about the 40 rupees. In this story, he said he came back with the 40 rupees when he first returned to India. And he said because they were useless. In America, they would not exchange still to this day. You bring rupees to India, you can't get dollars for it at the exchange station. So he said he brought them back, and his first taxi ride was 40 rupees. So he said he went, years later came back, and he spent that 40 rupees. And he was sitting in his room, and he said, when I was a grahasta in Delhi, he said the winters were so cold. And I always say, Prabhupada always bathed from a bucket. Even in the West, USA, England, shower was there. He bathed from his bucket with the lota. And he said, it was so cold, I would break the ice on the top of the bucket. The water had a layer of ice on the top. He would enjoy telling us, just personally, privately, didn't put it in his books, but he enjoyed telling his disciples the things he went through, the difficulties he went through. This morning, and as Deena Bandhu said, here we have, see, this is the result of Prabhupada going to America. He distributed prasadam, Vrindavan prasadam, to everyone. There's a discussion that's been going on. I got CC'd on it because it was about Prabhupada, milk, dairy. But I was thinking, one of the things Prabhupada did when he came to the West, and of course we know it's Sally Agrawal, where he stayed. He said, when I came to America, he said I would open the refrigerator so I could prepare something, and there was meat. He said there was meat in the refrigerator. He said what to do. This is what he was giving. I'll tell you one story, it's a funny story. In Mayapur again, Prabhupada looked upon those days, I think as we do as well, the austerities. That's where all the ecstasy is. As difficult as it may be, Deena Bandhu said, I just did a trip just before lockdown, 2 months, 10 weeks, 15 different temples. And it was difficult, but it was ecstatic. That was read yesterday, huh? Material life, easygoing life and Krishna consciousness, they don't go side by side, they don't come together. So Prabhupada, he was in Mayapur, GBC meeting, his 12 GBCs, big. And I've told this, 2 of them were talking, they were from Hawaii. One of them was GBC. The other one wasn't, but he was sannyasi. He was there in the room during the GBC meetings. And one of his very early disciples, one of his early disciples, Bhakti-Jan. Yeah. Yes, Brooklyn. He was very tall, very thin. And he wanted to attend. Things haven't changed much in ISKCON. He didn't trust the GBC. So he wanted to attend the meetings and see what's going on. And Prabhupada created this society. What is going on in this society? So he wanted to attend the meetings, and I said, you can't. I said, it's a GBC meeting. I really want to sit down and see what's going on. I said, well, I bring sweets, a tray of sweets into the meeting. That's tradition, was started by Srila Prabhupada. If you go to GBC meeting, there's nice trays of hors d'oeuvres are there. That was there when Prabhupada was here. Prasadam. Prabhupada brought prasadam to the West. He brought Krishna to the West in many, many forms. His books, but his secret weapon was the prasadam. And amongst the prasadam, the secret weapon was ghee. He said, transform all the meat eaters by the taste of ghee. So he's in there, and these 2 devotees, they're sitting there talking. The GBC man and sannyasi. Bhakti-Jan went in with the tray, sweets. So now he's sitting down, he distributes the sweets. And the 2 devotees, they're arguing out loud in this small room, Prabhupada's room. And Hawaii, I say from Hawaii because Hawaii people are very, they speak a little roughly sometimes. So they were speaking, and one said, damn this and hell and this. And Prabhupada's sitting there on his asana. Bhakti-Jan comes over and sits down, and Prabhupada sees Bhakti-Jan. And he knows he's not GBC or anything, but he looks, he says, I learned that. We would do this. Prabhupada do this. Underhanded, you call. So he called, and he looks at Bhakti John. He says, Bhakti John. Now this argument's going on. The other GBC members, they're all sitting there. This is Prabhupada's room in Mayapur. So they're all sitting wondering, what is happening? Now Prabhupada calls him. He looks at Bhakti John. He said, you were there, 26 2nd Avenue, right? He said, you were there in the beginning. Bhakti John says, yes, Prabhupada. He said, do you know? He said, 26 2nd Avenue. In the front was the storefront, that's the temple. Then you would walk through the back door of the storefront. There was a little central garden area, and there were rooms. So Prabhupada's room, where he slept, was there. His sitting room, where he did his work. He said, it's there. So he said, you were there, 26 2nd Avenue? Yes, Prabhupada. He said, do you know how much my rent was? 1965? He said, it was $62 a month. And then he looked at him. He said, 62, 26. 62, 26. And all the GBC are sitting there. And they're looking at the two of them, and they're looking at what is Prabhupada doing? What is he saying? Is he chastising? Is he talking? No one knows what's going on. And Prabhupada's going 26, 62, 26, 62. This personality from the spiritual world, he found joy in everything. Everything he did. Everything connected to Krishna. And for us, always we say, we kept us on our toes. Kept us on our toes. He always kept us busy. Always kept us a little bit off. You never knew. Never knew what was going on. Everyone's thinking he's talking big things. Prabhupada was big, but he was so simple, so wonderful. I would say so childlike. This person empowered by such love for Krishna, so much love for Krishna. He came, Deena Bandhu said, to bring us here. We're doing it all in reverse. Prabhupada came 69 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, 22 years old. That's what we were. So now we're 69. He took everything, turned it right side up. Our lives were upside down. As he said, we were all headed a very difficult direction. Do you know one of the first typewriters? You talked about broken typewriter. You know the name of the typewriter? Corona. Prabhupada started way back in the 60s. He was giving us the coronavirus. He gave us the real virus. I think yesterday, we have a closed temple. As he said, these very powerful lords. Not marble. Balaram said, let's have a party. Yesterday, hundreds of devotees in the temple room, everyone in ecstasy. This is what Prabhupada gave us. Whatever may happen, we're just under Prabhupada's protection. I know already emails are coming in, photographs looking at Deena Bandhu last night. Where's your mask? Where's all your masks? People think we're all crazy. And we are. But our ideas become crazy for Krishna. Everyone is crazy. And I'm not even saying what we're doing is a good idea, right? But what can we do? We came here by Prabhupada's arrangement, huh? Look what he did just so we could come to this place. So much difficulty, as he said, alone but never alone. But all that was to show us, just to show us. We're at 9 o'clock here. So every day is a special day. Maharaj Dharmatma called me 5 o'clock this morning to come and say something. Of course, I know nothing about Prabhupada leaving India. I just know he was very eager and said New York was the place to go. He said, my godbrothers, they tried Europe, they tried London. I put my sights on New York City, the very heart of America. He went there. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Hare Krishna, thank you.